going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great Thursday night. I know mine isn't the greatest with my knee, but I get a chance to talk to Jessie Naylor, so that's always a good thing. I just want to say before we start this conversation, people have to understand how much Jessie does for this Niner community and all the stuff that he does, collaborations. 16 streams within the last 2 weeks. He's a dad. He coaches. And this overlay I got, this was made by Jessie. My intro was made by Jessie. He's a good dude. He's one of the best parts of this 49er YouTube community. And I just want to say thanks and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, bro. That means the world to me. I appreciate it. I just like to help and I like to be a part of the community. And so anywhere that I can do that, I definitely will. I appreciate it. It's been a while since I've been on, but I always enjoy talking with you, Aaron. So I'm excited for tonight.
Yeah, I was like, man, I got to do the stream, and I'm like, could I do it from my bed? But I'm like, nah, I can't. I can't not have my Shure SM7B. It looks like you joined the new microphone club. What do you got rocking there?
I did. So this is the Blue Sona, and believe it or not, I actually reached out to them, and they sent this to me for free.
What?
So it's a $350 mic that they gave me for free. I just told them, I said, listen, I use a lot of Blue products. Do you have a discount program for streamers? And they're like, we would love to give you one. Give us your address. So there they go. So, but you know how it is with XLR marks. You're not just spending the $350. It's like, okay, you got to get a boom arm. You got to get the cable. You got to get a way to power it. So you know, you're another $300 deep in the equipment to make it work.
Interface too.
Yeah. No, so it's worth it, but it's just one of those things that it was super nice of them to do.
I want to say hi to the chat real quick because I've been doing a bad job lately with chat questions and participation. So I'm gonna make sure I jump on them real quick. Raphael 562, he said, "What's up, Aaron and Jessie and everyone? Thank you for popping in." Mariah, hello, how are you? I am so glad you're in here. She always supports the stream. Stunna, of course. I think he dropped this last night, but I just want to say thank you. Kimberly Honia, he said, hi, let's go 49er fans for life. Definitely. 49er throwback, always supporting me, always has nice things to say. Thank you very much, my man. I appreciate it. Me and the Dream, my co-star for tomorrow's stream. I can't wait. As we look forward to playing the Kansas City Chiefs. So thank you, Amin, for being in here. So I guess the story of this game, or the story of the 49ers so far this year, besides them having a 3-3 record, is the fact that they were once again the most pretty much injured team in the NFL. So they've had a lot of bad news. They have a little bit of good news coming with some returns, with players coming back. I wanted to ask your opinion on. I looked at something, or I watched something that said it's gone back almost 9 years, this situation. Do you, just from a football fan's perspective and someone that does a lot of content creating, can you wrap your mind around what exactly the issue is? Are the Niners is it all dumb luck, or is it something you think that's deeper than that, and that the Niners just haven't figured out that situation yet?
Yeah, it's funny, the timing on this question, because normally I would try to justify it in some way, and what I would normally say doesn't seem to be the case, and we actually got our answer. I don't know, it doesn't sound like you've had a chance to watch it, and I'm sure there's some people that are going to watch this that haven't. Vish Kumaran, love Vish, he's my guy, but he had Jaquiski Tart on yesterday. And when he did that interview, he asked about injuries, and a very interesting answer came from Tart. And it was an answer that almost as if he was kind of as baffled as we are as fans as to why there's so many injuries, until he went to Philadelphia this offseason. He thought that the 49ers did a really good job of protecting their players in practice, not going too hard, and just getting them ready for the season. And when he went to Philadelphia, he saw it through a different light. He realized that Philly really has it dialed in. They know exactly what they're doing. They know when to ramp it up and when not to. And they really take it easy on their players. And when you look at Philly's injuries compared to the 49ers, the last couple of years, Philly's near the bottom meaning they don't get injured, and the 49ers are near to the top, meaning they do get injured. So there's something to that. And I don't know if that's a Shanahan thing. I don't know if that's a medical staff thing, a trainer thing. I don't know, but they've got to figure it out. And we've been talking about this for far too long, Aaron. This is nothing new. It was a problem before Shanahan got here.
Mhm.
Shanahan probably thought it came down to the training staff, and so he cleaned house and remade that training staff. But the issue is still here. They just have to try something different. And maybe you have somebody in that Philly organization you can reach out to and just ask questions to. But when you have a player say things like that, then you have to take notice, because that player, unlike you, the coaches, have experienced something different that is completely on the opposite side of the spectrum. It's not like, okay, well, Philly's the 10th least injured. No, they are like bottom 3 for injuries consistently. There's something to what they've got going on.
Yeah, the Niners aren't just like kind of injured all the time. They are pretty much the top of the list every single year. And when you watch games now, I watch games less engaged because I'm always worried about, all right, is this guy going to get up after this collision? Is this guy like, I literally was thinking, I hope Charvarius Ward doesn't get dinged up in this game. And sure enough, I watched Twitter and I watched the game at the same time, and all the name. I'm like, this is insane. Like, I've never seen this before.
It's too much. And then you're right. There's a game within the game. How many times have the 49ers won a game and you're disappointed after because of the injuries that happened? It happens
all the time.
All the time. It's so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I remember, like, I was, and people always say, because I'm an old head, because I'm, almost 43, like, dude, man, football was so much more physical back in the 90s and 80s. And the injuries were, people got injured, but in a league now where player safety is number one concern, and they do all these things to help player safety, guys are, at least with the 49ers, they're more injured than ever. And It's always the same type of injuries. It's always soft tissue injuries, groin injuries, knee injuries, hamstring injuries, high ankle sprains. It's like, man, I hate the saying, and people always say this to me, and it makes me angry. Aaron, football's a physical sport. And it's like, no way, really? Yeah, of course it is. But like, the Niners are on a whole different level of injuries, and it's so frustrating. I watch games and I'm like closing my eyes to think, okay, who's next? And I hate that. Like, I want to go back to watching games like I did back when I was a kid, where like I didn't even think about injuries, like, ever. Like when Jerry Rice got injured against Tampa in 96, I think 96, 97, like that was like, oh my God, Jerry Rice is hurt and Steve Young got knocked out of the same game with a concussion. Like, that just didn't happen with the regularity it does now. So yeah, it's super frustrating. I would like to see them do something this offseason. Staying pat and staying content with the things, I think, would be a huge mistake, just because this is a really heavy loaded talent team. But a lot of guys might be coming back this week. Verrett, possibly, not a conclusion on that one yet. We don't know for sure. Bosa, I guess, is leaning towards coming back. Trent Williams. But to me, it's like, are they going to last through this game? Are they going to last the next couple of games? Like, to me, it's just stressful. I'm not as cool. I'm not as relaxed when I watch games now. always have my eye on the ticker, or I'm listening to the announcers to see who went down. So
yeah, waiting till the end of the game, and then it's Verrett against the Lions, and you got Emmanuel Mosley against Carolina. It's at the very end of games. It's so frustrating to see. And to your point, yes, it's a physical game, but at the same time, most of the 49ers injuries are not from physicality. They're non-contact of some sort. They're a muscle strain. They're just things that happen from being a great athlete, I guess, but it's not all coincidence. It can't be.
It can't be. Speaking of injuries and speaking of people that are injured all the time, I want to get your opinion on Javon Kinlaw, and I want to know if you think, honestly, if the Javon Kinlaw ship possibly has sailed, and that the Niners would be stupid to, sign him to, or, give him that guaranteed fifth year that teams can do with first round picks. Are you still kind of undecided, or how are you leaning on that one?
Well, haven't they already picked up what year is this for him? This is year three, huh? Yeah, this is year 3. So do they do it before year 3 or do they do it after? I thought they did it before year 3.
I'm not sure. I don't know if they have done it.
Let me see. I forget how it works with 50-year options. I don't know if it's before year 4 or if it's before year 3.
Yeah, it's never within the 5th year. They don't wait till that long.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Today I want to go over the spec of the. I don't know. I can't find it. But if they haven't picked it up, then, well, you know what? I think it's before year 4. Yeah, it's the last year of their actual deal. So it's before year 4. Okay. No, they no reason to pick it up. That's going to be a lot of money. What they do is they take that and they average it out based off of what players' salaries are at that position. So you're going to overpay for a guy that can't seem to stay healthy. And it's not his fault. It's unfortunate. You hate to see it. And especially a guy like Kinlaw, where he came from, that story is so inspiring. And the fact that he can't stay healthy is, it's the most frustrating thing. We saw it in the most unfortunate way play out, and how that whole situation really took 49ers social media by storm. And that was a lot of frustration playing out on his part from being injured. And so now you imagine he felt great this whole offseason. He's ready to go. He thinks everything's going to be awesome. And then same problem. And it's not like he retweaked anything. It just all of a sudden starts getting stiff on him and filling up with fluid. And just some people aren't meant to play. They're too big. Their bodies aren't meant for it. And it really is unfortunate, but it's a business. And that being said, I am definitely not picking up that 50-year option. For what? I can't trust this guy to stay healthy, and I'm not going to overpay him. I'm not going to say if he has like a really healthy 4th year and plays good, I'm not saying don't bring him back on a 1-year deal, but it's got to be less than what that 50-year option is. You got to give yourself that flexibility. You just have to do it because we haven't seen it yet, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, the Niners are a goodwill team. They seem to do good by guys sometimes, and I think this is the one time, not because of anything he's done, but just it wouldn't be smart business to give away money for someone who's not super productive. He's more of a space eater than anything, and he gets hurt a lot. And I don't blame him. I blame the Niners. They drafted him. They had the medicals on him. They knew all his injury problems. And for some reason, they were gung-ho on trying to just, swap defensive tackles for defensive tackle. Like, it doesn't work that way. It rarely works that way. You know what I mean? Like, I remember after Bruce Smith left Buffalo and they had Marcellus Wiley, and it just because somebody's in that position and they're like big and imposing and talented doesn't mean that they're going to fill the shoes of the person that was there previously. And he just hasn't. And it's like I said, it's not a knock on him. It was to me, I blame the Niners more than anything. You're right. This whole offseason with that whole situation and all the dividing it did with the Niners community, you wish he would have been able to at least make it through, I don't know, half a season, 3/4 of a season before something popped up. But I remember hearing you say something on one of your streams about that you have knee issues, or you've dealt with knee problems, and what he seems to have tends to point towards a chronic issue like arthritic or something like that. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I actually started talking about this last July, I think, is when his knee swelled up on a flight coming to training camp or getting ready to go to training camp. I said, that's not normal. That's not usually because of an ACL or anything like that. From my experience, I'm not a doctor by any means, but I've put a lot of research into this stuff for a normal person because I've dealt with a lot of lower extremity injuries from my ankles to my knees. I currently have a torn meniscus and arthritis behind my right kneecap, and I've opted not to get surgery. I'm just kind of dealing with it in different ways. And so what I know is, And I even fell for this myself. I hadn't played basketball in a couple years. And earlier this year, I was like, I want to start playing again. And I went out, I played for a couple Saturdays, felt really good. And after that, I got into the last game on that second Saturday and it just stiffened up on me. And then it swelled up for 2 weeks. And then swelling went down. I was able to play again. And then it swelled up again, missed another 2 weeks. And I played this game for 4 months or so. And then I was just like, it's just not worth it. I can't overcome this. There's nothing I can do about this. And I feel fine when I'm out there, which I imagine is what he's doing. He feels fine. But then as soon as the game's over, especially playing on turf or being as big as he is, you're going to start to get stiffness over the next couple of days and swelling, and it's super uncomfortable and you can barely walk. And that's what I imagine he's going through. And so, yeah, when that flight happened, I said, I don't care what anybody says. You can try to sell me as something different, but I believe he has early onset arthritis. That is a sign of it. And I said, my prediction for him this season, if they can get him through the season, the way they're going to do it is to not practice and hope that he can play on game days. And that's what they did until he couldn't anymore. And then he had his surgery, and he even talked about it. He's like, I think he made a post. People think I have arthritis. I don't have arthritis. Like, okay, I hope that's true, but now we're having this issue again. And what's crazy, Aaron, is that when Shanahan was asked about it, he said this was a thought. This was a possibility. What do you mean this was a possibility? I thought surgery was going good and you looked out your window every day and he's rehabbing and looking awesome. This was a possibility. The only way this is a possibility is if you've got a chronic issue. And what people don't realize is when you have cleanups, it sounds so routine, and it has been so routine for years that people don't necessarily understand what goes into that. But usually a cleanup is removing something, a little bit of cartilage, a little bit of this.
I've had it in my shoulder twice.
There you go. And every time you do that, you're getting closer to being bone on bone, which is arthritis. And he's had some cleanups. I've got to imagine that there's some of that going on, and it's probably not life ruining for him or anything like that. But if he continues to play, I mean, that's stuff later on that you're looking at, just quality of life changes and knee replacements and all sorts of stuff, man. So yeah, I feel like that's what it is, and nothing has happened to change my mind, but it's like I said, it's super unfortunate.
I do believe things are genetic based sometimes. I really do. Cause I have, everybody knows who follows me on social media that my knee is giving me issues because I hyperextended it. I'm about 6'3", 260. So I'm not exactly in the greatest shape.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're bigger, your joints bother you. My grandmother, never worked outside a day in her life. She was a home mother. She raised all my uncles, my dad's mom. She had surgeries on top of surgeries. I mean, shoulder, rotator cuff, this, that, the other, anything you could think of, she had. And my nana on my mom's side from Sicily, she had all sorts of issues too with her knee, this, that, and the other. I just think sometimes some of us, unfortunately, some of us can be athletes and be resilient, and it seems like we have rubber joints that can just bounce back from anything. And then I hurt my knee at work because I got startled by a dog bark. I'm outside doing whatever I do in the lot, and a dog barked, and it scared the living crap out of me because I wasn't ready for it. And my knee slid forward and my kneecap went over my foot. Like it was like a violent boom. And I'm like, really? Any other person that wouldn't happen to, but because apparently my genetics are made out of marshmallow, that's what happened. So I think that's part of it too. And you're right. It just, man, sometimes these things with Kyle, when he says like, we prepared for this, or we've been ready for this, or this was a possibility. You're right. We were all told the same thing this offseason, that he was better, and it seems like we got everything taken care of and it's fixed, the yada, yada, yada. I don't know, man. I feel like they're just trying to cover their ass for making a poor decision in the draft. And again, I don't blame him. I blame the organization because they had every reason not to draft them. And I know other teams took them off their boards because of the same situation, just like teams take people off their boards for, behavioral things or stuff that's off the field. and the Niners decided they thought they were smarter than everybody, which sometimes at John Lynch really pisses me off. And it's bitten them in the face a couple times, especially with like Reuben Foster and stuff like that. So, but real quick, what's your mindset on the Armstead situation with the plantar fasciitis? I've dealt with plantar fasciitis before, but I'm not 6'7", 300 pounds. What is that all about?
Yeah, that's another tough one. That's another one that I've dealt with. Like I said, my lower extremities. I've played a lot of, it's not tackle or nothing, but I played for probably 12 years on field turf, flag football, and 3-on-3 basketball tournaments year after year on pavement. And so I've dealt with a lot of these things because of that. And plantar fasciitis is interesting because the pain is so let's say this is the heel, right? This is the bottom part of your foot. You've got this ligament that runs along your foot here, and then right where it connects to your heel, it's so painful. I mean, excruciating pain. It feels like somebody's stabbing a knife into your foot. And then throughout the day, it kind of loosens up and you feel good. And so if you do a lot of self-diagnosing on these things, you're told to, well, roll a tennis ball on it or a water bottle that's frozen. Roll your foot on that. And it does. It feels good while you're doing it and maybe for a day or so, but it flares up again. What I ended up learning is, and I had dealt with this for a couple years, I found a chiropractor here in Florida when I first moved that did this technique. It was called the Graston technique. And basically what it is, it's these metal tools that you rub in along whatever body part's hurting, and it brings blood flow to that area and helps repair it. Well, what he let me know is my issue of plantar fasciitis had nothing to do with plantar fasciitis. It was my hip over time would kind of turn in, which would make my right leg slightly shorter, which would cause a strain in my calf, tightness in my calf that was pulling on my plantar fascia. And so usually you get a pain somewhere that is not at all related to the actual problem. And so I imagine that the 49ers, I hope, are smart enough to understand that, or their medical staff is smart enough to understand that the pain is not stemming from a foot issue. The pain is stemming from something else. That being said, it sounds like he's got an issue with the other foot, whether it's an ankle or whatever, that is something completely different, and that might be what's keeping him out at this point. So I have no idea, man. Again, you get big guys that are playing a tough game and taking a pounding week in and week out. It's tough. It's tough to stay healthy.
I'm going to retouch on a player that seems to have injury issues, but I want to kind of change it over to the offensive side of the ball. 49ers offense woes, offensive woes. I'm going to mix my two topics together. Is Shanahan worthy of blame on the offense being the way that it is, or are we at where we are because we have the same players in the fold as we've always had, and you know what player I'm talking about? Are we limited because of said player, or is it Kyle's offense, or is it teams figuring us out? Like, when I watch 49er games now, I feel like I've seen this all before. You know what I mean? I feel like it's regurgitation, it's Groundhog Day, whatever you want to say that translates into something being similar and that you've seen it before. And I get frustrated because the Niners offense is so compact and so horizontal, and it's like, man, you watch other teams throw the ball around with ease down the field, you know, the digs, the deep corners, the outs. And this team is just everything's concentrated over like the first 12 yards in the interior part of the field. Like, what is your take on all that?
I think the combination of the two is it. When you're in this league for a long time, I always say a lot of rookies will start out hot, and that's because the league hasn't figured them out yet.
Exactly.
Year number 2 is when you get figured out, and then year number 3 is really when we know who you are because now you've adjusted to the adjustments. Everybody knows who Jimmy Garoppolo is, and everybody knows who he is within this offense. More importantly, if Jimmy Garoppolo is running a different style of offense, maybe there's some wrinkles and things that he can get away with. that is going to trick some people. But everybody knows what he is in this offense. And we know what Kyle trusts him to do, and we know what Kyle doesn't trust him to do. And so does the rest of the league. Yes, Kyle absolutely deserves blame. Jimmy's the backup quarterback at this point. They tried to move on. They were unsuccessful in doing so because of an injury. And Jimmy Garoppolo's back starting. And Kyle Shanahan isn't, for as innovative as he was, he hasn't changed enough.
No.
Especially with Jimmy at quarterback to make this interesting. And in my opinion, he also has a slight issue in playing the right people in the right spots.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's mad at Warner for the drop, and everybody's mad at Ray for the drop. But were those the right players for that? Shouldn't it? Maybe Ray, I don't know. I guess I understand that slightly, but Warner, you have Dwelly on this team who never drops passes. You couldn't have done that with Dwelly.
Right.
I guarantee he sneaks behind the defense. I think there's an issue there. There's a stubbornness when it comes to not wanting to play rookies.
He is so stubborn.
So stubborn. You draft these guys high, you move up in the draft, you maneuver, and then you don't play them because you don't trust them. Yet you're going to trust a veteran like Wilson, who has fumbling issues of his own, has been explosive in spots, but is not consistently explosive. For what? You're going to hold these other guys back, the TDPs and the Masons, because what? They might not be explosive and they might have fumbling issues. Okay, then your offense is the same. Try something different. You have to be willing to try something different. And it's just, you're in this spot now where same quarterback, same coach, and everybody knows exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you know, they, like you said, they draft these guys and they don't play them, and they rather drive guys into the ground by overusage than spread the usage over young, healthy, fresh legs, or at least legs that haven't taken the NFL pounding yet. And instead, because like you said, you don't trust, you rather give the ball to Tevin Coleman, who you signed off the street. Yeah, he looked good in that one game, but like, dude, Tevin Coleman isn't it. He's not the answer. Elijah Mitchell, I don't even know if he's it. He's really talented and really good, but he can't stay healthy. To me, it doesn't bother me as much because he's a 6th rounder. So I'm not really like, the Niners aren't like financially invested into him. If they can't, if something happens in the future where he's gone, I'm not as mad. But TDP was what, a 3rd round pick? They spent another 3rd round pick on a running back. So I don't know, man. Your ego affects your ability to win games. I think that's really stupid, especially with this roster. Well, before all of it got hurt, but I'm just saying, like, it drives me nuts. Kyle's ego sometimes, man. He is so stubborn in the way he goes about doing things. A lot of people always say like, "Oh, we could have this quarterback, and they could have brought him in, and this guy could have not." There's no way in hell that an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady wouldn't have been able to play under a guy like Shanahan, because Shanahan has to be the alpha in that whole dynamic. He needs to have guys that he can talk down to and lambaste on the sideline, like a Trey Lance or a Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think he could have an alpha at quarterback would tell him, screw you, I'm running this play and just deal with it. Like, I don't know, man. As much as I love Shanahan, and this is not a topic that I want to really get into because I know a lot of people get really angry. I'm not ever saying to move on from him, but if the goal is winning Super Bowls and being a consistent winner, I mean, he hasn't been a consistent winner. The Niners, are like they're either all good or all bad. There's like no in between, and they haven't won the big game. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're right about that, and it's tough because only one team wins every year.
Right.
I think what we want more is just winning consistently.
Yeah.
I think that's why Harbaugh's so revered, because every year he was here, you felt like the 49ers were going to win the Super Bowl. Really thought that. And we kind of have those thoughts with this team, but then we get 3-4 weeks in and we're super injured, or we can't score in halves of football, and you just start to like, oh my gosh, here we go again, like same thing over and over and over. Like, when are we going to learn? You just don't have that same swagger as a fan. And I think that's what we want most is we just want to feel confident that we've got the best team on the field most weeks, that we're going to run things around here. And when we get to the playoffs, we're going to make noise. Does it result in a Super Bowl? That is the ultimate goal. But does it have to result in the Super Bowl for us to be ultimately really happy with the coach?
If you're in there every year and you're in the dance and you have a chance,
Right.
that's what matters.
And the answer to that is clearly no, because you've got a big chunk of this fan base that just loves Shanahan and he can do no wrong. Just fine. I'm not telling people how to fan, but
yeah,
man, that's okay. Is he that great? Because when I look at his offenses, a lot of it's funny because a lot of people rag on Greg Roman, who used to be here, calling offensive plays.
I was one of those guys. I wasn't always a big fan of Greg Roman.
Yeah, and that's fair. I'm not saying Greg Roman's perfect, but if you go look at when he was an offensive coordinator or the years he's been an offensive coordinator versus the years that Shanahan was an offensive coordinator, Roman, I think, one time finished outside the top 20. And Shanahan has lived there when it comes to points scored. He's spent most of his career on that side. Very rarely has he crept into the top 10, and Roman has lived there or around there. The years he hasn't been top 10, he had like 3 years where the offense finished 11. That wasn't just with the 49ers. That wasn't just with Lamar. That was with Buffalo and I forget who their quarterback was at that time. Tyrod Taylor, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not doing, I don't know. I just think if you're an offensive genius, you have to figure out a way to manufacture more points. You cannot be 26th or 28th in second half scoring. You cannot, over the span of the last 2 years, when they've had starting level quarterback play in Jimmy Garoppolo and or Trey Lance, have 4 halves where you've scored 0 points, which is the same as the Bears and the Jets over that span. Something's wrong. Something is wrong. And believe it or not, and Nick Newman threw this out on Twitter, shout out to Nick, the offense this year through 6 games is worse than 2017 in points per game. 2017, we talk about everybody wants to give Shanahan a pass those first 2 years because he was building the roster and it was so poor. That poor roster put up more points a game than your 2022 San Francisco 49ers, and Shanahan deserves a pass? I'm not saying fire him. I'm definitely not saying that, because the moment that I say that, he's going to prove me wrong. So I'm on sitting on my hands on this one.
He'll go on another team and they'll win a Super Bowl first year.
But at the same time, it doesn't mean you can't be critical, and he deserves blame 100%. He's the head coach of this team.
Yeah, you look at that one graph of Garoppolo being, with the Niners and downfield passing and percentages, and he's like last or 35th, or that to me is just another part of the whole part of the problem. And there is a part of this fan base, there is a part of this media contingent, there's this part of the content creators that are like so afraid of going back to the days of Tom Sula,
for sure,
and all these other horrible coaches that we had before, that they almost accept mediocrity, or they accept being in, we could remember when we had so-and-so as our coach and remember how bad we were. And it's like, some people are afraid to step over that line and be critical because of whatever backlash you're going to get. I'm definitely not that guy. I know you aren't either. And there's a lot of people, most of the people that are in this chat agree with me. And I think that's why I don't get the views like I do anymore, because I've scared off a lot of people. This year, I've been the most honest I've been in a long time. I never used to bitch and moan on Twitter like I have this year, because I'm just sick of stuff. Like, I'm sick of things not changing. You look at his roster, like you said, and they're so talented. And I'm just like at a point now where I'm like, you know what? If it means that like people are not going to like me as much, but I'm going to feel like when I do a stream or something that I'm speaking what I really feel, instead of kind of balancing on that line of like saying, what I'm trying to say. I want to keep, the views. So I'm not going to go that route. Well, I don't care. So yeah, it's just so frustrating. It's like, dude, you have to be able to criticize. Like, this
For sure.
isn't good enough right now. We're 3-3. We should be 6-0. This team should be 6-0 right
Yes.
now. No doubt in my mind. The Bears, really? Who else did we lose to? Atlanta.
Bears, Falcons, Broncos.
Look at the Broncos. I mean, they're pathetic, man.
Disaster.
Russell Wilson looks washed. Whether he is or not is a whole other thing. I could care less. If anything, that makes me kind of happy. and if you say otherwise, any fans in here, you're lying. You all know seeing Russell Wilson crap the bed in Denver makes you very happy, because it makes me very happy, because he was a freaking 49er killer.
Yeah,
whether he was the reason behind it or not, he was part of it. I'm one of those people. If someone is a bad person and you associate with them, I consider you guilty by association. That's what I feel about Russell. Russell is guilty by association. But anyways, let's I just want to say hi to Sentinel really quick. He says, "What's up? Thank you for popping in here." CJ Gray, thanks for popping in the stream. Thank you very much. My boy Ty Olson, always making time for me on Twitter and the stream. We were trying to maybe possibly meet up around, because I guess he was going to be close to where I live, and I told him about my niece situation. It sucks, because I would be more than happy to like drop in and have coffee with somebody around, if they around here, you know what I mean? But I know Peo Time, the Rams YouTuber, he might be around where I live at some point in the future. Hopefully I'm back to work, and because right now I'm on crutches, so
yeah, that's a bummer, dude.
It doesn't really work.
Getting around in crutches is a disaster.
It's really hard for me, because I'm about 6'3", and like the crutches, the girl adjusted them for me, and they still seem like they're too high. They're not supposed to be in your armpit, for what they said. They're supposed to kind of rest against the top of your chest on the side. Those bad boys are still in my armpits.
Yeah.
I don't know how to walk with them. I don't know how to gate the leg and swing it behind me. I'm like a clumsy ox. So when I went into my job to give the work note, I was on the other end of the building. I told one of the people, "Can you grab so-and-so?" So he walked over, and I gave him the note. I didn't go up to the office. I'm like, I can't do this. I got to get back in the car. I'd have someone drive me. So Ty Olson says Aaron is injured, but still giving it 100%. Hey, I try, man. I try.
Gamer.
Panama Queen, how you doing? Oh man, she's like a legend here. Panama Queen.
She's hilarious. What I forget what it is. Panama Queen. Throw it in the chat again. What was the name that you came up with for? I think it was Jimmy Garoppolo. Had me dead. I used it all last year. That was legendary. So funny.
Well, I'm always down for a little Jimmy Garoppolo shade. So speaking of injuries and speaking of roster situations, are you interested in any deadline trades? Would you make the trade if you were the Niners with, say, I don't know, Christian McCaffrey, who seems to be always hurt? I'm not really interested in that trade, to be honest with you. The talk of Brian Burns and this guy and that guy. Do you see the Niners making any deadline moves? And two, if they did, who would be the guy that you personally would want the Niners to bring in?
Man, I don't know if I see them making one. I do genuinely see them trying to make one.
Limitations G.
Yeah, Limitation G. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. That's Limmy G is what I ended up calling him after that. That's perfect. Thank you. But I think that they're genuinely going to try. It sounds like they're in the market. Out of all the guys, I'm not interested in any of them. I don't want to say I'm not interested in any of them. I could see why the 49ers would be interested. I'm not saying they wouldn't make us better. I would rather, there's a player out there on Washington. He plays interior D-line, which the 49ers desperately need right now. We've talked about Kinlaw. We've talked about Armstead. Deron Payne. I think he's only 25 years old.
Ooh.
He's coming up in the final year of his contract. He's extremely good. And the best of all, healthy. I think he's missed one game in his 4 years he's been in the league, 4+ years, 5+ years, whatever it is. He's a really good football player. He would be perfect for this team. And I know the 49ers' strength is their defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I say, if that's your strength, then double down on your strength. Make sure that it continues to be your strength. Going and getting Christian McCaffrey is not going to fix this offense. It might be a temporary Band-Aid. You might be able to do some cool things for a couple weeks, but ultimately, if you don't have a philosophy change, you're not willing to change other things up, or you don't get a different quarterback, it's only going to change for so long. Double down on the defense. That's what's going to win you games. If you can continue to hold, when healthy, teams under that 20-point mark, do that. Elijah Mitchell's due back after the bye week. Mix him in with these rookies. Trent Williams is back this week. Just use the bye week to figure out the offense, but double down on your strengths and make sure that you continue to be dominant there so that your offense, even if it struggles, can get the job done because the defense is just putting a stranglehold on people.
Emiliano says the uninjured streak would end the moment his plane lands in Santa Clara. Do you mean like the moment that plane landed in Santa Clara it ended? Yeah, seems like ever since we came from Candlestick, we've had nothing but problems. But yeah, man. To me, I mean, this is a year where the Niners can float around 500 for a bit and then kind of make a last minute push towards the end of the season, because that, to me, the division is really kind of all I care about at this point, and it is very winnable this year. We've already got one win against the Ram and Seattle. I think the Cardinals we can beat. We can't find a way to lose to those guys. It is so winnable, this division this year. And
100%.
And if the Niners, with all these injuries, are in the mindset of, hey, let's just float around 500 and we'll rest guys and this and that. If that's their mindset, I mean, it would be kind of a dumb mindset, but I can understand it a little bit. Or maybe like holding guys and waiting them for them after the bye and just trying to get through certain games that you think you should win. That's why the Atlanta game was so disappointing, is like, okay, we don't have Bosa. This is a game where the offense needs to kind of like hold, do their part, and that didn't happen. And I was so disappointed. And we needed the offense to score 30 points, whatever way. I don't care if it's a kick return. I don't care if it's a blocked punt. I don't care what it is. I don't care how the Niners got in the end zone. Man, you saw those 2 first drives where we got, Ayuk, and I was like, oh, he's cooking, finally, And then teams just adjust because it's the same old shit. It's the same old, the song from Motley Crue. It's the same old ball and chain, dude. It's nothing changes, and that's the part. If the Niners would somehow come out and all of a sudden do things completely opposite and go against the script, it's just it's frustrating. It's like you see it, what's coming. It still happens, and I don't know. They often should have found a way to kick Atlanta's butt last week, and they couldn't do it. So,
and that's been the concern. We knew that going in, and that's what I've been talking about since Jimmy took over the team. Is you're gonna have to win, and it would have been, to be fair, it would have been the same with Trey until I hoped till the end of the season. Once he had gotten a season under his belt, you get to the playoffs. He's figured it out a little bit. Now you can just get real creative with the offense. And you just can't do that with Jimmy. And so you've got a situation where nothing's really going to change. I'm not going to say there aren't going to be weeks where they don't put up, there's going to be weeks where they put up points, but you're going to be inconsistent on offense. And if that's the case, just beef up that damn defense, man. Keep that defense going and allow them to go win you games. There's nothing wrong as long as you're winning. There's nothing wrong with winning from your defense. Just do enough to win on offense. And we kind of saw last week, if the 49ers get in a shootout situation, not something that we want to be in, especially if you're going against a Mahomes or something like that. But that being said, I really feel like the importance of this game is very little. If they win, it's a huge deal because everybody's excited. It's a big win against a good AFC foe. Maybe that's who you play in the Super Bowl if you're lucky enough to get there. That would be great. But if you lose, there's really not a lot you're losing because you have the Rams next week. Losing to the Rams and beating Kansas City is way worse than losing to Kansas City and beating the Rams because you're trying to win this division. And to your point, I actually think 9-8 might win the division.
I know.
And if that's the case, you just got to keep winning those division games. Yep. If there is anybody that's close in this game to not being able to go, you're kind of on the fence, I don't know, or you sit them, take the L, and make sure they're back for the Rams game so you can get that W right before the bye week. Go into the bye week at 500 with a 2-0 record against the Rams, 3-0 in the division, and you are in the driver's seat to go win this division and ultimately get in the playoffs. And however you do it, once the 49ers get in the playoffs, if they are healthy or relatively healthy, they are a dangerous team for anybody. And the NFC is atrocious outside of Philadelphia right now.
Listen, I'm in freaking Buffalo country, man. I live in Rochester, New York. Dude, the Bills are
they're the cream of the crop in the NFL.
If Buffalo makes it to the Super Bowl this year, I hope the Niners don't. Because this is their year. For the first time in their history of that franchise. Listen, I lived out here through all the losses, and I wasn't a Bills fan, but to see my one friend, his heart break every single year, man, it was tough. And we didn't experience that until this last 10 years or so where we lost. Now I'm like, man, now I know what that feels like. Man, it sucks. But the Bills are really dangerous and scary. To me, you're right. Niners can float around 500, and they can win that division wherever they land seed-wise. If they're not going to be able to get the number one seed, get everybody ready for the playoffs. Go into the playoffs with a healthy squad, ready to do what you do best, which is run the ball and play stellar defense with a killer pass rush. And then let the chips fall where they may. That's kind of where my mindset is this year, just based on Jimmy being the quarterback, the offense being what it is, and just all the injuries. So you're right. That's kind of where my head is too. The chat has been asking about Danny Gray and Jordan Mason. Dude, I don't know where they are, man. Danny Gray, once Trey got hurt, I said he was obsolete. A lot of people crapped on me for that on Twitter, saying that's not true. I'm a narrative kick starter. Have you seen him? Have we seen him? Some say he's hurt.
Where's Waldo book?
Yeah, where is he? That same pass that you threw to Ray McLeod, I think he's there. He catches that. He's gone. He's toast. He's flying. But for some reason, like you said, Kyle has a thing with the rookies and inexperience, so he rather ram off injured, washed up, over the hill guys down your throat because he trusts them, which to me is it's stupid. But I'm not the head coach of this team, and apparently in the eyes of Jed York, he can't do any wrong. So what we think in this is pretty much meaningless.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. Like Mason. Again, we talked about it earlier. Mason deserves some run. TDP, you drafted in the 3rd round, deserves some run. Try something different, but they're probably not going to. Mitchell will come back and he'll take it over, and it'll be great again because Mitchell's a better player than some of those other guys. And people are going to love it because Mitchell's a good player. I don't know how much of this plays into it. Maybe not a lot, but there is an observation that I had in that Seattle game. Danny Gray was suited for that game, ready to roll. And he was playing. He was targeted a couple times by Jimmy Garoppolo. There was 2 plays, I believe, if I remember correctly, where he lost his mind on Jimmy because a throw was poor. I thought to myself, man, as a rookie, to do that to the veteran quarterback,
I never saw it on film. You actually...
I saw one of them on film, and the other one I thought I saw during the game, but one I can confirm definitely happened. Losing his mind. And if that... I said then, man, to do that to the veteran quarterback that the locker room loves is a quick way to get no playing time. Then he was injured. He's been in and out. I know Shanahan doesn't like to play rookies. It's probably more that. But it was an interesting thought that I had during that time. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that as a rookie?
Regardless if you agree with him, because I would, and I would be like, yeah, get in his face. You can't do that.
No.
Jimmy is literally like, well, actually, I'm not going to, I was going to use a religious term, but
don't do that.
He's very, put it this way, that he's very beloved. He's I'm not going to say it, but yeah, they love him a lot in the locker room. So to put your quarterback on blast, especially with that kind of behavior, I know a lot of people said they saw it kind of from Ayuk last year. There was instances, and I did see it in games, just the body language, the throwing up of hands, the hopping down on the feet, like, how could you not see me? And but yeah, Rook, you can't do that. Regardless if we agree with you or not that Jimmy has a noodle arm. Yeah, can't do that.
Definitely not. It's not a good look, especially like I said, when you got veterans in this locker room that love him.
Yeah, McGlinchey, Kittle.
You can't.
They're like the board of directors in this locker room.
Right, you know? right. No, that's very true.
I want to ask you this, and I've asked a lot of people recently that I've streamed with, so I'm going to ask you too. Is George Kittle washed?
I don't believe so. I actually talked to Grant about this 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Because I know Grant's been pretty kind of on.
He has.
He's hit that one on the nose a couple times.
Well, I want to say he's right in that they should have traded him last year.
I agree with him too.
That.
I do agree with him on that.
And I kind of agreed with him last year on that as well. But is he washed is a whole different thing. And when I watched, it was after the Carolina game. I went back and watched the Denver and the Carolina game. He gets open. He beat Patrick Surtain, who in a man-to-man situation, and got open. They just aren't giving him the ball. They were using him as a decoy. Now, last week, he started to get the ball. He was force-fed a bit for his birthday in Carolina, and then he fumbled. But Kittle can still get open. And Grant's argument was, well, he's not as explosive after the catch. Maybe before the catch, that's what I've been seeing. And I think that's a fair point. But last week, you kind of started to see it come out of him a little bit, where he was dragging people a little bit and doing his thing. So I personally don't think he is, but he's not the healthiest guy. And even when he's playing, this is the first year in a long time that I can remember him not walking in and out of the huddle with a limp of some sort. He always just has that nagging thing, and he's so tough. You have to commend him for it, that he just plays through it. But he's no longer, the way that they use him, he's no longer worth the salary. Yeah. And I don't think it's his fault, because I don't think he's washed. But right now in this moment, how he's been used to this point, it's not worth what you're paying him to do what he's doing, in my opinion.
I don't think he's washed, but I do think it's what his play style has taken a toll on him.
For sure, yeah.
He's not what he was.
It's very
in 2019. I was just going to say that when you were talking. Gronk, it's great minds think alike. Gronk, to me, he was slow and clunky, but man, he could make big catches and big time. And Kittle, Brady, that's one guy Brady always trusted. I mean, heck, he went down and won a Super Bowl with him down in Tampa. So mazel tov for that. But the 49ers are the past. And I know, again, I'm an old head. Bill Walsh always got rid of guys a year early rather than a year late to have value. Mm-hmm. Whether that's draft picks, a player in return, whatever. You do that, though, I think you would have definitely lost a lot of the fan base, at least last year, if you would have made that move. But see, I like that Grant Cohn kind of puts that, not the narrative, but the idea that maybe is not as popular, but because he's not a 49er fan, he can separate his love or his obsession or his unhealthy admiration for a player that he doesn't have and look at it strictly as a football move. And you got to commend him for that. Like I said, he's not a 49er fan. And I think that's where some people maybe get upset at him or whatever. I have learned to appreciate the candor, because in the long run, and a lot of times, Grant's right about a lot of stuff, and it's freaking weird. I know people that hate to admit it, but the Kittle thing is one thing. And I was looking at him this year, man. My nephew's a huge 49er fan. I was like, bro, should we trade him? My nephew's like, I don't have any allegiance to anybody. He goes, I love him, but heck, if the Niners could get something for him in return or a draft pick. So, I mean, you gotta listen, in the NFL, you got to look at all possibilities to make your team better. I don't think they're going to do it, but the salary he's making right now, and as compared to the production we're getting out of him, it looks like a bad deal. So hopefully maybe he's just maybe he's about to go off. Maybe he goes off against Kansas City. I don't know. I don't see that, but maybe I'm wrong. I want to be wrong because I am a Kittle guy. I just at a point right now where when I watch games, I just don't see the same explosiveness from him after the catch. He might get open and body people and block the hell out of people, but that explosion definitely isn't there like it used to be.
And he's a hell of a blocker. He's still a really good football player.
Blocker.
And I think that's where I want to make sure that at least I'm clear. It sounds like you're on the same page, but that we think Kittle's a good player.
Yeah.
But for what they're asking him to do, it's not worth the salary. It's just not. If you want him to stay in and block as much as you do, just do what Seattle used to do a couple years ago, where they would just run out 6 offensive linemen. Yeah. But you got an offensive lineman on the bench, just bring him out, run 6 offensive linemen on some jumbo packages, and call it a day. Report one eligible so that maybe you trick the defense. But right now, the way that he's been used is essentially like that. My hope is this: they're playing against Kelsey this week. It's he's National really Tight Ends Day. Greg Olsen is calling the game, and Trent Williams is back, and Mike McGlinchey is healthy. Well, is back. Seems like.
Maybe.
If that is the case, man, there is no better week to go off for George Kittle. This is the week. If he doesn't get it done on National Tight Ends Day against Kelsey with Greg Olsen, and now you don't have to stay in and block as much, man, I don't know if he'll ever figure it out or they'll ever figure out how to use him again.
No, I agree. Speaking of pass catchers, last week I was watching the game, and as I know you were too, and to see Ayuk look like he looks like to me a number 1 receiver, like a true number 1. Debo is a playmaker, but I don't look at Debo as a number 1. Mm-hmm. He's like a gadget guy. He can run, he can screen, he can be explosive, whatever you want. But when I look at the way Ayuk can run routes and just his hands, his body control, the long arms that he has, man, I was watching that game and I'm like, man, if they ever got a quarterback that could really freaking use this guy's potential and get him. I mean, he looked like a true number 1 last week, just getting the ball, the 2 touchdowns. What is your take on him? Can he ever develop into a number 1 if maybe say Trey Lance takes back over next year? Or is it just the offense that hampers him? What's holding that kid back?
I think Ayuk is a really, really good football player. I think he's a hell of a route runner. And I posted this in the game. I said, I find it interesting that most opposing defenses just make the decision to put their number 1 corner on Brandon Ayuk. And I think that is telling of what the league thinks of Brandon Ayuk and how good of a football player he actually is. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that also can be that Debo is moving around so much. He's in the backfield. He's here, he's there. It's hard to do that. But even when Debo is lined up at receiver, a lot of times you'll see that number 1 corner on Ayuk. And Ayuk, more often than not, is cutting him up. He's a very good route runner. His catch radius is extremely big. He's got those long arms.
Super long arms.
For
a 5'11" guy, he's got like a 6'4" arm.
Yeah.
I think they said he had Megatron's catch radius.
I don't know.
On a 5'11" body. That's insane.
Yeah, that's wild. But I think Ayuk's just a really, really good football player. I do. Why he doesn't get as much his way, I'm not sure. Last week was a great example of things that I think he can do in this league if given the opportunity. I saw it in the Rams NFC Championship game. In fact, if you're a member of the channel, I've got a full breakdown from that Rams game. And of the 29 routes he ran, 7 of them were clear. I'm trying to remember exactly, but I think it was 29 actual routes ran where he wasn't running clear outs or something. 23, he was wide open, something like that. It was crazy. I mean, he was running. Aaron, if they had decided to just attack that second corner and go to Ayuk over and over and over and over until they figured it out. Ayuk could have had a 200-yard receiving game, 3 touchdowns, and they would have ran away with the NFC
That's what
Championship.
a lot of people were saying. That NFC Championship could have been a blowout Niners' favor, but because of the lack of aggressiveness by Jimmy, and I think Jimmy was really hurt in that game. I think he was really physically hampered.
I agree, but I also Shanahan's offense does not attack opposing corners. If they find a weakness for whatever reason, you don't see him just go to the well until the other team stops it. He will with the running game. He absolutely will do it with the running game. If he feels you can't stop the run, oh God, you're in for a world of hurt. If he could do that same thing, much like the Dolphins did to the 49ers and Allen, where Fitzmagic just attacked this kid over and over, knowing that there was nothing they could do about it.
It was so bad.
They could have done the same thing last year with Ayuk. Ayuk would have went crazy in that game, and they would have been in the Super Bowl. I really believe that. I think Ayuk's a great player. They got to figure it out.
Definitely. Real quick, 2 last little things, and then we'll get out of here. The 2012 reunion. I thought it was kind of weird, and that's just me. I know a lot of people are different because they're just fans of the Niners and they want to celebrate all, good things. Celebrating a team that got to the Super Bowl but lost, kind of strange to me. But I guess Harbaugh and company and players are going to be there. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, I think it's cool. I'm not going to be a hater and just completely hate on it, but it is strange that they're like celebrating a year where they kind of didn't win it. What's your take on the 2012 reunion and having Harbaugh in the building?
Yeah, I personally enjoy it because it's alumni week anyways, which means you're going to have a lot of the old heads in the building regardless.
Like Jerry Rice.
yeah, he's always there.
He's always there. He has nothing else to do.
You're going to have a lot of those guys in the building regardless. And the way that I look at it is, okay, well, if it's alumni week, it's been 10 years. I also think that there's some of this where Harbaugh says there's no beef with York. York says there's no beef with Harbaugh, yet it doesn't sound like they've actually spoken. Like this is the first time that they're going to speak and be able to hash it out. I think time passes.
That'd be weird. I'm not going to lie.
Super weird.
Awkward.
But as time passes, I think that you reflect on life, especially as you get older. And I really think this is, in my opinion, York's way of trying to mend that bridge. Not because he wants to bring Harbaugh back or anything crazy like that, but that he just wants to mend that bridge and wants Harbaugh to be welcome here for many years to come with him being the owner, knowing that what he brought to this organization was restoring an organization that was lost for so many years. You have to admire that. And if that's what York's doing, you have to give him credit because that's showing growth as a person. And I love to see it. So I think it's a lot of that going into it. I think York just has reflected, realized, man, I really owe a lot of thanks to this guy. I kind of did him dirty for a guy that I ended up firing a year later anyways and was terrible. I wish I would have kept Harbaugh around. We wouldn't have had those down years. It wouldn't have been as crazy. I think there's a lot of that goes into it.
I know I was a little critical of Harbaugh towards the end because I thought he could, he could wear on people, but we were so successful with him. He took a roster that Singletary didn't know what to do with and made it look like, it was an amazing run. It was for the first time in a long time, I was going through like a breakup with somebody and I totally just forgot about the breakup because the Niners had a really successful season that year. And it was just it was like, man, lose girlfriend, gain an almost Super Bowl appearance. I think I'll take the Super Bowl appearance almost, but it was a weird time for me, 2011, 2012, but it was nice to have the Niners be relevant again and people talk about them, and Candlestick, having games at Candlestick, playoff games. It felt like the old days. And I think he knows he made a mistake by letting him go. The fact, like you said, that Belky was out a year later. So, you're right. In life, you have to learn to sometimes the best way to move on is to just completely face something, as awkward as it may be and uncomfortable, deal with it, and then move on. And maybe, who knows, maybe they do talk, maybe they don't. But the fact that the gesture is out there and he's accepted it and he's coming, whatever way you feel about they feel about each other, I think it's cool. I am a little. It is a little weird that they're kind of celebrating a season where they didn't win the Super Bowl, but that's just the cynical Niners fan who's been a Niners fan a long time. Be like, really? I thought we celebrate winning, but maybe I'll just for once not be a hater and just accept it and be okay with it. So
I think also maybe this Kaepernick may not come, but I feel like Jed would really like to have that fence mended with not only not only Harbaugh, but Kaepernick as well. I think that's probably something that maybe as an organization they regret a little bit how it was handled. Those types
that whole
of things.
situation was bad at the end, man.
It was horrible all the way around, and I think. I mean, we can say what we want, but man, the way Kaepernick got me excited for some of those games, the way he performed, dude, he was so electric and so dynamic. How can you not love that? He was special for a short period, but man, that short period was it was electric, man. It was electric. And the way that he ran over Green Bay in the playoffs, I will never, ever forget that. It is a memory that I'll always hold true and fond of my heart. And I think the organization should want to mend things with him. I think they should want to mend things with Harbaugh. And I think this is their opportunity to do so. We'll see if Cap shows up. I don't know. I haven't heard either way. But we do know Harbaugh's going to be there, so that is going to get mended as well.
I wonder if Alex Smith will be there. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, he's supposed to be there. I think he said he was coming.
Griffin said let's not forget how Alex Smith got shafted. Yeah, that was a weird situation, and you're not supposed to lose your position to injury, but Kaepernick came onto the scene and was amazing, and you got to ride the hot hand sometime, and that's just how sports work. I mean, Brady came in for Bledsoe, and the rest is history. Whatever you want to say about Brady and whatever feelings you have that he's overstayed his welcome, that, blah, blah, blah. He's got the referees in his pocket. The fact of the matter is, without no Bledsoe, there is no Brady. I mean, it might eventually have happened, but this is the way things work sometimes. But yeah, I had some issues with Cap towards the end because I thought he kind of checked out mentally. But that team was total butt cheese, man. They were just really, really bad. So
I think they checked out on him just as much. That's the problem. Those receivers couldn't hang on to it. They were like the most drops in the league by far. It just became a dumpster fire, and it wasn't. There was no one player that was going to hold that together. As far as Alex Smith is great. I love Alex Smith as well, and I wish he would have had that opportunity to play in a Super Bowl as well. I really do. That being said, he was perfect for that team. That New Orleans run is another one that I'll never, ever forget. Both of those guys, that team at that time, you have to give it credit. I mean, how can you not love that team? It was such a great team for a short stint. And those 3 years, man, we were relevant. They were legit the second best team in the league for 3 straight years.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep. And we were 1 touchdown away from beating the Ravens. Could have, would have, should have, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Yep. My last question for you, a quick look ahead to Kansas City. In my mind, this is a game where the Niners got to play their style of ball, which is run the ball, keep away, play good defense when they have it, when the Chiefs have the ball. Chiefs are fantastic. They're playing really good. That loss to Buffalo, to me, I don't think that really changes anything much for them. Anyway, the Niners can sneak out with a win here, and if they do, how would they go about it?
They can. They definitely can. It's the same recipe. We know what it is. They're going to have to play keep away. They have to play keep away. They have to dominate the time of possession. They have to figure out how to run the ball with consistency, stay ahead of the chains, convert on third downs, and just keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. Because it doesn't take much, as we've seen twice now against Buffalo, how quickly he can get the job done, how quickly he can strike, and especially with some of the injuries that are going to probably keep a player or two out that is not going to be ideal. They have to play keep away a little bit here. I think that's the game plan. Run as much as you can. Kansas City is vulnerable against the run, but the problem is that is because they were missing some key linebackers or a key linebacker that they are getting back. That run defense was looking very good up to that point. So I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball at will, but that's the ideal situation is run the ball, keep ahead of the chains, convert on third down, and dominate the time of possession. You can win this game for sure.
Time of possession game. This has to be a time of possession game. This has to be a game where we possess the ball for 7 minutes in a quarter, but we got to score. You can't have like the last drive against, or it was supposed to be the last of 2 drives against who did we just lose to? The Falcons.
Mariota and the Falcons.
And we didn't even score on that drive. I mean, that was some of the worst. I mean, that was bad. I've had some drives like that in Madden because I've played against, all Madden, where I've driven the ball for 7 minutes and come away with no touchdowns. But I didn't know that it actually could happen in real life. But apparently I was proven wrong. But Griffin asked if Bosa is going to play. It's trending that way. He says he's going to see how he goes, how practice feels this week. He said he's feeling better. So hopefully that's the case. Man, like you said, I wish the Niners would do something. If they do make a move at the deadline, like get, I don't know, bring in a Sue and trade for another defensive tackle. Do something with that interior, because I feel like when Armstead's on the field with Bosa, it's a different pass rush. Because you say what you want about Eric Armstead, but man, that pass rush with him, they're the perfect combination, and it's definitely not been the same. You can see it when Bosa's in there by himself. Hopefully, Amenahu and other guys can step up and do their job, and hopefully he can stay healthy and make it through the game if he does play. And we can get a couple pressures that lead to maybe a turnover or so. Maybe we'll have a shot. I think we can beat KC, but like you said, it's got to be a keep away type game. If you go into a score fest with them, they're going to blow the doors off of us. It's just how it works. So
yeah, and you got to dominate it. I'm saying minimum 35 to 25 minutes. 35 minutes for us, 25 for them, and preferably more lopsided if possible.
Well, my man, I think we reached that time. I appreciate you for coming on here. Thank you for making time. Like I told you guys at the beginning of the stream, Jesse, over the course of 2 weeks, had 16 streams that he was in. He works. Like I said, he's a coach. And the fact that he was able to come on tonight, I appreciate it very much. I'm in a little bit worse for wear with my knee and stuff, but this made my night for sure. I appreciate you coming on, Jesse. You're always a good person to talk about other stuff that's not always football related, real life things. I think me and you both, people who believe in a higher power, so to speak. Sure. So definitely, it just, sometimes things are not about football. Like I said, you guys, the overlay, my intro, Jesse did that all. He's a great ambassador for the 49ers content creating community. So I know most of you who are in here probably are subscribed to his channel, but if you are not, Last Second Sports, that's where you'll find him. Jesse's one of the best. I totally love doing stuff with him. One of these days, if I ever make it to a game in real life and you're there, I would love to meet up. I want to meet up with a lot of the fans of the channel and other content creators. I've just never been on a plane before. I'm kind of a chicken, so.
I know we've talked about that before. That's crazy. We'll take a train, like do a East Coast game.
Yeah, do a I don't want to go to Philly though.
Don't go to Philly.
I don't want to get my ass kicked. I mean, I might be a big guy, but
go to. I don't know when they come to do a Florida game, man. It's always warm weather. You get away from
my brother's a Dolphins fan, so
perfect.
When me and him are having a tough year. Both of our teams are freaking injury riddled. He goes, now I know how you guys feel.
Yeah, every year we do.
Every year we have to deal with this. But all right, everybody. Ty Austin, you definitely called dibs on the meetup. Ty Austin's definitely going to be first whenever that happens. But everybody in the chat, thank you so much for coming in here and spending time with me and Jesse. Until next time, everyone. I'll actually see you guys tomorrow with the Me and the Dream. Until next time, everyone. Peace.